you beautiful people, and welcome to the only game where less is more. It is Supreme Commander Forge Alliance Forever, and today we're looking at a 2v2 played on the map Blue Lands. So let's go ahead and get right into it with player introductions, starting with Team Red up in the north and ending with Team Blue down in the south. And we're gonna start with the Maroon Zybran going first land as a 964 rated player. He is none other than Kamikaze667. Moving over to his bright red UEF ally at 0 hull rating, he is going first land, and his name is Vanga. Then we can, of course, move our way to the south, starting with the dark blue Cybran player going first land with 1,534 rating behind their names. It is none other than Mavix. And then, of course, to the east of him, the last player in the game, a light blue UEF going first air. Very interesting, with 36 rating behind their name. It is none other than Cold Dash. And with everybody introduced, we can take a look at the map. I don't believe I have ever casted this map before, so that is going to be a treat for everybody here. 32.9 thousand reclaim for these players to shove into their coffers, and let's do a little bit of armchair analyzation as we look at the map and try and determine exactly what's going to happen. So as far as I can tell it, the line of scrimmage, the line that you expect the map to be divided by, is right here with the yellow dots. It extends. It's just sometimes the dots go out of draw distance, but that's where the map is most likely going to be split, and we have a few points of contention. The main areas for both players, or both teams rather, is going to be their main island, where they're going to have the most progress to be made because it's the biggest islands on the map. And then very close to both teams, we have these small islands right in front with 4 mexes, not too shabby, and a decent little bit of reclaim. But the big points that these players are going to want to contest are right over here. A island with 6 mexes on each side of the map. They are closer to each team respectively, but these islands are going to be very, very important to fight for. We also have another set of 4 mex islands on the edges of the map, and those will be important as well. But overall, I'm expecting to see some good old-fashioned naval fun. Both teams are a Cybran and a Cybran and a UEF respectively. So we're expecting to see a lot of boats. Nobody has good hover here. I mean, the Cybran don't even have hover. Don't tell them, it'll upset them. They think they have everything. But the Cybran don't have hover, and the UEF has the Riptide, and it's not bad, but it's not good. So, of course, let's go ahead and speed this up until these players start punching each other in the face, and just look at the game quality of this. It's 61%. Not a particularly balanced game, all things considered, but I think that's mostly down to the fact that Cold Dash and Vanga don't have ratings. I'm guessing that Vanga's global rating is probably pretty close to Maxov's, or Mavix. Sorry, that name is for some reason throwing me for a loop. And he's probably somewhere in the range of 1,500, but maybe he isn't, and we're just going to have to see how these players get on. Overall reclaim numbers, Cold Dash really falling behind with 0 reclaim thus far, everybody else getting up into the 3,000-4,000 range. Overall mass incomes right now, Team 1 up here in the north are just doing better than Team 2, and that's because both players on Team 1 at the north went for T2 mexes, and they went for multiple. And Team 2 down here in the south just didn't. They don't have... They're getting their first T2 mex now, and it's Mavix doing it. But that is very interesting to see there. We have a transport out from Mavix. He is setting himself up on multiple islands over here to the southwest. And we have a lot of scouts coming out from Vanga. Really like to see his heavy emphasis on intel and knowing what's going on. And of course, over here to the east, we have a contested island, the first of presumably many, as Kamikaze667 decides to set themselves up with a couple of engineers on this island. Is the reclaim war going to happen? Who will draw first blood? Oh, it seems as though Kamikaze is trying to chase down the engineer of Cold Ash, but Cold Ash manages to just get outside the reclaim range, and the engineer decides to just go ahead and start building a factory as his brother-in-arms will succeed in killing off that engineer of Cold Ash. Is quite the brutal display coming online there for Kamikaze. Very much so a war crime in and of itself, churning your enemies into resources for your war effort. I'm pretty sure there's something in the Geneva Convention about that. Sorry, I haven't casted in a little bit. I am rusty, but we will get back into this and we will have a good time, of course. Now down here to the south, we're starting to see the first fledgling navies coming online. We have Cold Ash with the largest naval presence so far, and overall, the southern team doing a lot better at getting naval units out right now. We currently have 10 frigates for Cold Ash, Mavics sitting on 7, Vanga sitting on 1 submarine, and Kamikaze sitting on a submarine and a frigate. So that could be a very big problem, as right now Cold Ash, he's starting to come in here, and he wants to make his opponent Kamikaze very sad with all of these frigates. And of course, Kamikaze gonna need to get out a ton of subs to deal with this and hopefully keep some of these factories online as they continue to produce frigates. The first frigate for Kamikaze is just gonna go down in flames. Or I mean, I guess it's going down in submersion. It doesn't really, I don't think it's on fire once it starts sinking. But of course, everything going pretty all right now for the southern team. Cold Ash going to be very happy with the situation as they start taking down naval factories. One naval factory down, another about to be focused down, and we're starting to see a very dangerous situation come online. But we do have a bright spot for this northern team as Vanga is about to finish up their first destroyer, and that could be a big problem. Also, as of the moment, both players on the northern team keeping a cool around 20 mass a second lead over their counterparts on the southern team. So overall, 40 mass a second lead for this northern team, but they need to make sure they can quell this naval rebellion coming out from Mavics and Cold Ashes. Man, oh man, are they just going to town right now, killing off all of those forward factories that were coming out from Kamikaze. And now Vanga and Kamikaze are in a very rough position. And that was the first of a many destroyers, I assume, that are going to be produced. But unfortunately, going for a cruiser second, that's not going to bode too well for the immediate future. More naval factories need to come online for Kamikaze, who I would imagine is going to start having trouble spending his mass. And yes, indeed is starting to have struggles with that mass expenditure. And right now, the Valiant class here, it needs to start running away, and it needs to run away immediately. As of the moment, this is going to be a very difficult fight for it. It can trade effectively, and as many frigates as it can keep from firing on it as possible will extend its lifespan and allow it to get more and more damage down. It's continuing to kite away, continuing to try and escape the fate that has been slated for it. And as of the moment, the frigates out over here for both Cold Ash and Mavics, they're slowly getting whittled away. But that cruiser, had it been another destroyer, that would have been very powerful here. The submarines here are also just enacting constant attritional damage down onto these forces out from the two blue players. And the cruiser is somehow getting some combat effective damage down with those long-range missiles. We also are starting to see some triads go online for Vanga. Vanga needs to make sure that they continue to get out more and more destroyers if they want any chance in this game. But the overwhelming frigate production from the south has just proven to be very effective here in the first 10 minutes of this game. And now the shield boat, it's going to try and continue to build or be a hindrance for the southern team. The submarines still managing to get tons of attritional damage, all of them getting close to a rank of veterancy here. But the Valiant class destroyer. It's hiding behind the factory. That factory is just gonna go down, and the second Valiant that's in it has almost no chance of completing. We need more ships coming out from Kamikaze. He needs to be able to help out his ally. That just doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon. The T2 Naval HQ is still alive and still has 7,000 HP for these frigates to chew through, and the frigates are really just starting to thin out here, and there's not many left. This destroyer with 13 kills, 14 kills, about to be 15 kills. He's really going to town, and the T2 HQ lives. And the forces for Mavics and Cold Ash have been forced back, and critically, this has left a lot of reclaim on this northern side. 6,000, or I guess we'll call it about 5,000 in the water here, near the base of Vangash mostly, or Vanga, not Vangash. I'm combining names now. That's just what we do here. I've only had struggles with names, except for that other thing, the Geneva Convention. But we're having a good time here. I hope you all are having a lovely time, and if you are, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video. It helps more people see this, and more people seeing FAF is a good thing because it gives you more people to play the game with tomorrow and the day after, and it keeps FAF alive. So please consider subscribing and liking. And of course, we have to continue to keep a close eye on these teams. Overall mass income, Team 1 still very, very far ahead. And in fact, have a 20,000 mass total generation lead right now, as T2 Air has been finished up for Mavics. And he is at full T2 mexes, bar 1, on his main island. But Kamikaze is at full T2 mexes on multiple islands right now. And he's gonna have a ton of mass to throw into naval production. We just need to have him actually get the naval production. But he's going for what would seem to be T3 Air, which could be extremely powerful here. Also could see torpedo bombers in mass. But now we have T2 Navy coming out from Mavics. He's showing up with his own destroyers, a Salem class there. And this Valiant, despite valiantly killing off a lot of frigates, did not manage to get a rank of veterancy, so it's very damaged. And another Valiant about to pop out of that factory, but we're already seeing multiple Salems online, and Kamikaze really gonna need to get out a lot of torpedo bombers very soon. He also has T2 land for some reason, seemingly very lost, doesn't know what direction that they want to take with this game. Other than ecoing up, not very much going on whatsoever. Is getting out a lot of naval factories, but they're so far behind on Navy. I feel like they need more commitment, more focus out of both of these players now, as Mavics is calling for sub-spam out from his ally, who is also T2 Navy, as I think they are worried about dealing with the submarines out from the other side, but there's not really all that many more submarines coming online. Also, sub-spam coming out from Kamikaze, so yeah, there's a bit more submarines than I originally was expecting to talk about. But now T2 mexes are going to be under threat, but no, they won't, as those are Coopers. They are not, in fact, destroyers, which means everything is, of course, going to be quite difficult in comparison to what it normally would have been here. I think destroyers would have been a better choice. These submarines would still die to destroyers. You more so need Coopers to deal with much larger numbers of submarines. And really quick, we have to pause. I need to fix something. By the way, all these games are streamed live, and that's what I'm currently fixing, the live stream. And we'll be back after this short intermission, which through the magic of editing will be instant for you. Alright, and we're back, and we now have torpedo bombers coming online for Kamikaze, but this entire naval effort he's gotten himself into is just not going particularly well. Has naval factories built up across the map, but they're all being shut down very quickly. Meanwhile, over here to the west, we have the destroyer. That Valiant earlier died, and now there's a new one, but he's not going to be the king like his brother was earlier, and he's going to go down to these Salems. May be able to get out a kill onto one of the enemy Salems, but no! Just barely, does not quite manage it, though these Salems are getting a little bit close to the shoreline for my comfort. They are starting to kill off some of the mexes, and that's going to be a real problem in future. If they stop moving, they will eat some cruiser fire, though. And over here to the east, mass torpedo bomber are starting to take down a lot of this Navy over here for Cold Ash, and while interceptors can be scrambled and sent over there, not happening just yet. Nobody going T3 air as of the moment, but T3 air going to start very soon for Kamikaze. And the naval effort just continues to be something this northern team cannot manage. They can't manage to get any kind of upper hand in the Navy, and that's going to continue to bite them in the ass, but they have so much more map control, and they have managed to eco so much better, it kind of starts feeling inevitable that if they are not completely shut down here in the next few minutes, that they could come online and be a real difficult threat for the southern team to take on. Back at home, ecoing up is going on for both Cold Ash and Mavics, but it just seems to be slower than their northern team counterparts. Vanga, though, has taken a little bit of economic damage here. Not going to feel too good, but does just have more T1 mexes than his opponent, so is not in a bad situation whatsoever. And overall, we now have a Salem here trying to fight the shields that have been set up by Vanga. He's also managed to build up himself a Clink Hammer, which is firing back at that Salem. I don't know if the shields will be able to maintain their protective status for too much longer if that Salem is left to its devices, but either way, over here to the east, Wagners are now being produced, and don't do this. If you want some advice, don't do this. Look, all 4 of the Wagners fired at this Thunderhead, and it's barely even hurt. The Wagners are much more useful to just send across the map and have them make some beachhead landing. As, of course, these Wagners, or I guess maybe they're Wagners, is how they're supposed to be pronounced, but I'm going to call them Wagners because that sounds funnier. And they're trying their best, but they're really just not going to get too much done. And mass T3 engineer now being produced by Kamikaze needs to bring back those engineers, and they are, and start building a T3 Pigeon to produce T3 air. Maybe torpedo bombers are their way out, but the naval efforts of Mavics in particular, he does have a lot of Salems, but his naval count has just kind of dwindled a little bit, and I think that's because he is focusing a little bit more on economy. And Kamikaze is starting to get naval numbers to somewhat rival that of Cold Ash, especially since he's building Coopers instead of Valiants. Means that these Coopers, they have lower damage output against these surface targets than the destroyers would. So the frigates will be able to deal with that, but they are going to deal with all these submarines being spammed out very effectively. We now have T2 Navy about to finish up for Kamikaze, and he's going to have a decent amount of build power to assist it. Nobody going for a T3 Mex yet. Actually, I take that back. Never mind. Vanga already has one. And if Vanga can manage to get out a couple more of those, could have a lot of T2 Navy online very soon. And over here to the east, a drop of some aggressive units, or at least a building of a factory to build them for Cold Ash, means he's going to be able to take over this far eastern island, and the map control is going to be split along those lines I mentioned earlier. But when the dust is settled, northern team has more eco, southern team still has more boat. And of course, that's a lot of torpedo bombers now coming online for Mavics. That could be a problem. Strat bomber online for Kamikaze, and I don't think Mavics has T3 air just yet. No, he still has a T2 air HQ, just building those, what are they even called? The Cormorant torpedo bombers. And now, of course, transport over here going to be spotted out. That transport going to be trying to take over this island over here on the far east, but so is the Strat bomber, and the Strat bomber needs to come back online and back onto the map and start bombing all of these T2 mexes. Send Mavix back to the Stone Age. And Mavix claims GG, but I mean, this Strat Bomber really isn't being microed all that well. Venga points out Torp. Strat Bomber still yet to have dropped a bomb. It's been a very expensive T3 scout so far. And what is it going to go for? Do they just not have any intel on the bases? They just really don't. So he's using it as a very expensive scout, and now using ASF to try and kill off these torpedo bombers, which did a pass at the naval HQ for Venga, but that's just not going to be very effective. And these clink hammers that have been thrown up are going to slowly get attritional damage down onto any naval forces that come by. And the Strat Bomber is going to be shot at by an interceptor. It's managed to kill something. I think it's only killed interceptors so far. But it has managed to kill those, and the Strat Bomber now going to come in and be used to kill off a T2 mech that was going T3. And that's going to be very valuable. 2,800 mass killed. More interceptors keep on popping out of this factory and may manage to slowly kill off this Strat Bomber if given enough time. But the Strat Bomber should get ranks of veterancy almost faster than that would happen. Oh, more interceptors show up, and the Strat Bomber goes down. Heavily mismicroed Strat Bomber only gets 2 T2 mexes. Very unfortunate for the northern team there. Luckily, it lands in a relatively awkward spot for reclaim purposes. It is close to the base of Cold Ash, but also only going to get half of the reclaim since it fell underneath the waves. And now over here to the northeast, we now have Cold Ash killing off more and more naval factories over here for Kamikaze. And naval production, we have Barracuda starting to come online. We have some static torpedo launcher defenses. The ASF here are gonna go in for an air fight versus all of the interceptors here in the middle, it would seem. And what are they gonna manage to do? Is the air fight gonna go their way, or will they die to the superior numbers? And that's the answer. All of the interceptors now down. Full air control ceded over to the northern team. And I don't see T3 air even close to on the way for Mavix and Cold Ash. But they still have such a naval advantage. It feels like if they could find a way to pressure this, they could pull a victory out of their hats. They still sit on relatively strong economies. And T3 air now started up for Mavix. We have another Strat Bomber on the way just yet. No, we just have torpedo bombers starting production again. And that's going to be a lot of torpedo bombers that will be able to be used against these navies out from the southern team. And the northern team has shown quite a strong showing, but the southern team is just really... I've been really excited for them throughout this game. They've had such good early naval play, and they're continuing to put on the pressure, but it just seems they can't seem to get a grip on this whack-a-mole style game they're having to play, where they need to shut down all of the naval factories of their opponents. And now, with mass T2 production looming on the horizon right now for the northern team, out from Kamikaze, you have to be a little bit worried for the southern team. Although they are no slouches in the water themselves. T3 air finishes up, and I would assume the first thing built out of that will, of course, be a T3 engineer to get up a power generator so he can build his own ASF. And yep, that is what's going on right now. And over here to the east, there's so many frigates online for Cold Ash. Has set all of his factories, it would seem, to T2. He only has 4 factories, but all of them have Thunderheads in their queue at some point. So that accounts for all of these frigates coming out of these factories so rapidly. And over here to the west, a lot of the islands have now been taken away from this northern team. Although Kamikaze sits on the leader position for mass generation right now, and as well as reclaim. I wonder if that will remain the way it is, especially with this southern team starting to get out more and more upgraded mexes, starting to get up T3 power. You can start seeing more T3 mexes come online for them momentarily. And they really do need to make that transition to the full T3 economy here in the next few minutes. As the northern team is now starting to see Vangash get close to full T3 on the main island. And everybody but Mavix is over 100 mass a second right now. Now starting to see ASF production come online for Mavix. Still does feel like Kamikaze doesn't really know what they want to do with this game. They've been in a very strong position throughout, but they've not focused on one thing. They're building submersible tanks in relatively large numbers. They're getting up a lot of naval factories, but they just don't have the same naval presence as their southern opponents. And they're going for this T3 air, but not really going for any aggressive T3 air options, and in fact has seemingly lost all of their... Nope, has 8 ASFs, but just isn't sitting on an abundance of any particular unit type. Vanga has also been, of course, building up Navy, has lost a lot of factories, but now is starting to just stock up on more and more T2 naval units. Meanwhile, on the south, we have Coldash here just continuing to build up a huge navy, whereas Mavix has kind of forgone frigate production. He still has a little bit of it going on, but is focusing heavily on mass Salem. And now the navy over here for Kamikaze, well, it's about to be the former navy of Kamikaze. He goes to take the fight, and yes, a lot of his units are kind of impervious to damage, being these submerged submarines. But there's just too many Coopers in that mix for him to really get much done, and the shield boat is really going to make it difficult here. Would love to see a lot of Salems coming online, because that really does deal with what Coldash is building quite well. T3 air also achieved by Vanga, and he is still building up a lot of Clinkhammers, and at this point it's starting to look like a mistake, as of course we can check on it. We're currently sitting at 13,000 mass in Clinkhammers, and that could have been multiple T3 mexes or just a lot more boats. Quite honestly, it does give kind of a passive area control over here, but it's not really going to stop a full navy like this. Now the naval battle seems to be ensuing. And all of these boats out from the southern team push northwards. These Barracudas doing their best to try and slow it down, but even killing off frigates takes them a little while. And over on the other side, the Navy for Vanga is trying to hold out, but there's just so many Salems in the area. Tons of torpedoes flying out here close on screen. And over here to the west, all of the Navy is starting to actually get decent trades here for Vanga, but that's not the main target. It seems as though everything is being thrown up here towards Kamikaze, which seems to be the better call, honestly, considering Kamikaze is nearing 300 mass a second. He's just ecoed incredibly well, but doesn't have anything to show for it to defend himself with. Does have a bunch of boats in stockpile here that are going to come online relatively soon, but he's just lost everything, and they just don't have enough boats. They spawned into a map that is like 75% water and decided that, Navy, not that important. And the naval fight continues. T2 Naval HQ for Kamikaze goes down. Has a bunch of options for getting another T2 HQ, so shouldn't be too worried about that. But is starting to lose some of this economy on his main island. And he's gonna have to be worried about that. All of these Salems are now exacting their pound of flesh. And there's not really much to stop them, if we're honest. The Navy over here for Vanga trying to show up, trying to do something. Cold Ash kind of getting cold feet. And a few boats may pop out of these factories, but they're going to be going down very soon. And the overwhelming ASF production, the focus out from Mavix is working wonders here. He's focused on one thing or another throughout the game. And is now sitting on a strong position, capable of possibly ousting Kamikaze here. Kamikaze building up mass fabs while his base is under siege. Seems like a poor choice of prioritization here. Gonna try and get into Rasboy production. Maybe Harms will be the answer here. And all of the Salems will eventually go down. But at what cost is what we have to ask for this northern team, as they are just in shambles right now. Their front door is being kicked down, and it just doesn't seem like they care. They still have insane economies, but neither of them is throwing nearly enough into building boats. Their opponents still are just spending way more on boats. If we check this, we currently have a grand total of 38,000 mass in boats for Cold Ash. Mavix is sitting on only about 8,000. Vanga is sitting on 25,000, and Kamikaze is sitting on 4,000. So I guess Vanga is throwing quite a bit into it, but you just see this over here. Yet again, Kamikaze is losing all of their production. And you have to feel like this was avoidable by this northern team. In fact, possibly, it still is avoidable, but the naval weight right now is just getting very heavy on the northern team, and they've lost almost all of their map control. Luckily, they did build their empires quite tall here at their main bases, and both of them are sitting on almost full T3 mexes. Meanwhile, on the southern side, we still yet to see a T3 mex in any of these main bases. You see some capping of the mexes, but no T3 just yet. And over here to the south, I can only guess that this was a Wagner incursion that I missed. And yes, indeed, Wagners came onto land, so Kamikaze does manage to get quite a bit of damage down onto Mavix through the use of the Wagners. And you can see 9 kills and 4 ranks of veterancy, freaking 15 kills and 5 ranks of veterancy on those. Very effective Wagners, but the Navy is just such a problem right now for this northern team. Vanga saying reclaim all this mass, and also would love to see all of these T3 engineers get into the water and just start building either Harms or naval factories and getting themselves set up. And it seems as though Vanga has a plan here, and the plan is, I'm gonna ring this entire island and clank hammers and stop them from killing our production ever again. It's quite ambitious, and I do like it. This game has been very clinky, thanks to the main man here, Vanga. Cold Ash is just a powerhouse in the water. He's just continuing to win any naval engagement he takes. He is playing it relatively smart, avoiding the T2 advanced naval force over here for Vanga, because while I think he'd win that fight, I think it would be a costly one. and still refuses to build destroyers. I'm guessing that a Valiant class did something to him when he was little, because he seems to have a deep disdain for them. And now all of the Navy that is left for Kamikaze is being slowly whittled away up here in this northeastern corner. All of the reclaim is happening. Massive effort to get large T3 air production online. Gonna go for a very big air grid in his base, at least as big as you can get on this map. And is now producing Rasboys relatively quickly. At least that was the first one coming out, but is going to continue to produce them relatively quickly here in the short term, as the Navy up here in the northeast corner, well, it's a disaster for Kamikaze. Oh man, it is. I was trying to bank it up for something very significant. I thought about using it earlier, but nah, it's a disaster. Kamikaze is just reeling and unable to keep any semblance of naval production online for longer than like 5 minutes. Yet again, okay, we're starting to see Mavics go for a heavy push into T3 mexes. And he does have a lot of mexes to upgrade. These Wagners over here, do not tell me. Oh, they're just going to go back over here. I was about to say, don't tell me they're going to go back onto this island and just kill off all of these mexes he just rebuilt. Over here to the east, all of these naval factories built up for Kamikaze are just going to die. He's built more naval factories than any other player this game, but has subsequently none left over. And this is what I mean by, like, they could be avoiding it. Right now, instead of building up a bunch of naval factories here, where it's relatively safe, behind the shield that is Vanga, is instead focusing on economic options. I think Kamikaze's real-life job might be that of an investment banker. Has managed to keep a good eye on that mass income and diversify his stock portfolio quite well, but has not managed to get a grip on exactly how to use those funds in an aggressive manner. Playing things safely seems to be the plan. And now with Rasboy production online, you have to wonder, is he just going to wait until he can go for, well, are we going to see some game enders coming online here soon? Because he is well within the territory where he could build one. Surprised not to see an anti-nuke on this island. Oh wait, no, we do have an anti-nuke on this island, thanks to Vanga. And the mass totals, like, you have to be wondering if this northern team is maybe trolling a little bit, because they've produced nearly, they're about to have produced 300,000 more mass this game, and they've been on the back foot for the entirety of it. But now I'm worried, as Mavics, he's getting up his economy really to a strong position. Cold Ash is doing much the same, getting up T3 mexes, but other than the naval presence in the northeast out from Cold Ash, they're slowly starting to lose their overwhelming advantage in the water. This navy here in the middle for Vanga is looking quite scary, and he now has T3 navy, including a Neptune battleship online, or battle cruiser online, sorry. Slip of the tongue. It is a very big boat. And of course, we sit here awaiting the next major battle with bated breath. Cold Ash was trying to build up some SAM sites. They are gonna go down, and this island that's been in his possession for such a long time is looking quite exposed and vulnerable. He's trying to regroup the Navy over near this position. The Coopers, when they show up, will kill off all of these Tiger Sharks in very short order. And yeah, you're going to start seeing Tiger Sharks go down left and right with the Cooper's arrival. But torpedo bombers come in! And that's going to be a couple of very dead boats. And now the Valiants push up alone, not opting to bring the shields along with them. Is an interesting call out from Vanga. But the Valiants do push up, they do take their pot shots, they do pick up a few kills onto frigates, and then they do fall back. And now we officially see it. We have Kamikaze building up a lot of Navy over here, even seemingly working on a Atlantis. And harm creep has begun. Kamikaze is now fully invested into building some Navy. He's the first player we're going to see doing so. Don't see any game enders. The naval fight in the middle is still just mostly Cold Ash fighting alone up against Vanga. But with that Neptune class battle cruiser, you have to be a little bit worried. And broadswords now coming online for Vanga to try and deal damage on towards the Navy of Cold Ash. And Cold Ash is just trying to bum rush down. But these Neptunes, they're going to do great damage. The first Valiant I've seen all game for Cold Ash is here. Unfortunately, it's a little bit outclassed. And the Neptune, the first one's going to go down, but at what cost for Cold Ash? As of course, he's losing the vast majority of his high-tech naval units for this. And in fact, just the mass majority of all of his Navy for it. The ASF over here for Mavics come in, but they're just going to find a fate that is frightful. As Kamikaze has a very large air wing now, and it just seems as though Mavics and Cold Ash they took their map control, they took their strong position, and they just kept trying to pressure, but they never dealt any kind of critical damage. And now this northern team seems a little bit infallible, I think is the word. Their fortress is impregnable, and they are sitting in a situation where they're going to be very difficult to deal with. But we do have a Hail Mary play coming out from Mavics. He has a Monkey Lord, and as you can see, it's planning to take a very obtuse route towards the main base of Kamikaze. And if it makes landfall, that is almost assuredly going to destroy at least one of the bases. PD for teledefense. I don't think you need to be worried about that. I don't think Kamikaze has any intention of teleporting into your base right now. Although Kamikaze might need some teledefense themselves. Not having that is a bit scary at this stage in the game when your opponents start to seem desperate. Mavics has T3 himself and is not going for a telemazer, although I think it would be relatively effective. Is Atlantis slowly building? Monkey Lord making steady progress northwards throughout the map. And I'm going to go ahead and take a quick drink. Make sure you stay hydrated, everybody. You all are oh so beautiful. And as we continue our battle here today, I'd like to ask you to consider liking and subscribing one last time, at least until the end. And maybe join the channel membership if you want access to all of these casts early. As that, of course, is a perk, as well as whenever I live stream, you have the option of using custom emotes. And you also could consider the Patreon if you want to support me and you don't like paying YouTube to do it. Alrighty. Over here to the middle. Neptune's just continuing to rack up kills. 5 kills, 23 kills. We now have a decent amount of RAS SUs for this northern team moving around. And torpedo bombers now coming in for Kamikaze. And taking out some exterior units. And critically, Kamikaze will have seen the Monkey Lord. Or will they? Oh, have they not seen the Monkey Lord? Also, a huge effort by both Movax and Koldash to get into the air game. Both of them trying to defend the Monkey Lord from air. And both of them have decent little air wings, but they don't have the same production that Kamikaze has. And honestly, they don't really have... their production is almost matched alone by Vanga, who has only 2 factories. I guess there's 4 down here. And overall, this Monkey Lord is going to struggle a little bit, although... One second. This just seems funny to me. Alright, let's get this out of the way here. It's the monkey boat, everybody! Fear the monkey boat. Oh man, that was just funny to look at to me. I'm sorry, that was probably really annoying for everybody else watching, but hey! I'm here for my enjoyment and my enjoyment only. Get out of here with your criticisms. Yeah, I was watching this Willow cast today, and he just slowed down the game a whole bunch and told me that he didn't care about my criticisms, and you know, I don't really want to watch him anymore. He's just so mean. And now, of course, Mavix, the dangerous monkey boat, little bit sus how it was firing there. It's starting to make its way in, but it's going to just walk into some harms, and the harms are going to kill it very quickly. And Kamikaze now has his own Atlantis online, and yeah, that Monkey Lord got a tiny bit of damage down. And by damage, I mean he killed off T1 naval factories, which has happened to Kamikaze all game. But the Monkey Lord not proving effective. Mavix upset with his opponent's strategies. Kamikaze saying this is Sparta, Koldash throwing in a happy face. All good fun and games here today. Now, of course, Mavix is going to go for the Hail Mary. He's going to go for the teleporter. Do they have telemaser defense? Well, they don't. Particularly Kamikaze doesn't. Do we have telemaser defense for Vanga? Well, Vanga's underwater. He's pretty safe. They will have some broadswords kicking around, which is a pretty good tele-defense, but does require a little bit of paying attention. Some harms would be nice, says Vanga. And yeah, the northern team, there's a nuke launcher finished and nearly loaded. And there is no anti-nuke loaded for Mavix, however you say it. And yeah, teleporter is a bit of a pipe dream with how little power he has right now. Would be prudent to stop this and get that T3 Pigeon online and then restart it, but doesn't seem to be happening. His ally could also help out a little bit by throwing energy his way. And Kamikaze and Vanga looking as though they have this game on lock. Although, if the teleport comm is successful on fully killing off this base here, that would be significant. And Kamikaze is launching a nuke as we speak.
Strategic launch detected.
And here we go. We're in the end game now. And Mavix throws down the triple dots. And where is this nuke going is the real question here. Is it going to the main base? It's going for the base of Cold Dash, it would seem. Or maybe it's just going slap dab in the middle. Nope, it's going for Mavix, and down goes the blue Cybran players. Entire base, hopes, dreams, and he is going to be very sad with that. And Cold Dash now with 2 bases is still the lowest economy player in the game. 25 kills on this Wagner. And 20 on the other one. Completely denying this southwestern area with 2 units. Quite impressive, I must say. And now it's kind of just all eyes on Cold Dash. Can he make something happen? He's got a transport for his commander. Huh. What's the play, Cold Dash? What's he going for? He put the commander onto the transport. Well, this is interesting. We're going to watch this now. And he is flying the transport over towards the enemy base. And gonna fly directly into a bunch of cruisers and die! Thank you all for watching. You've been so beautiful. My name is, of course, Willow. Please consider subscribing and liking if you liked the video. And, of course, joining the channel memberships or Patreon members, channel membership or Patreon programs to support me further. You all are oh so beautiful. And this is Willow, signing off.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the